Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm Lucas and welcome back to yet another video here on the channel. Today we have some F122 League Racing content in the form of WOR Britain, which I believe is round 5, and starting now on screen is our first run of Q1. But yeah, it has been a pretty good season. I mean, this race took place like ages ago as I'm recording this now. Like, this is like months after, but this was yeah, pre-season to F1 Esports when we were all sort of like doing the pre-season league racing, and yeah, this was I think, well, round 5 obviously, but it's been a pretty good season in WR so far. I think we won the first race at Austria, Bahrain we came second, but I mean we were fighting for the win anyway in that one, which was a really good close fight. Then round 3,
whoever removed that 15 meter board, thank you very much.
I can't even remember what round 3 was, but I think we won. Yeah, round 3 was Miami, which we won, and round 4 was Australia, which we also won. So it's been a pretty good season in terms on WR for the pre-season. So it was really nice to pick up some results as we're just running our way through what should hopefully be our one and only run during Q1. It hasn't been a super clean lap. We have had a few little cheeky snaps over there as Matthias very kindly gave us a cheeky little slipstream as we head towards Stowe for the first time in this session, not quite making the apex. It is quite tricky to make the apex there, to be honest, heading into the final chicane for the first time. Such a tricky little section to actually get nailed, to be completely fair. And we exit the last corner, across the line, and it is not the greatest lap you'll ever see me do, but it is more than good enough to get us through in one run in Q1. So, solid effort, and now time for our our first run of Q2. And apologies, by the way, if I don't sound 100% great in this voiceover. I am a bit loaded with the cold at the moment, and my head is absolutely bouncing right now with a headache. But we'll get through it. Got to get these videos out at some point, albeit it's been months since these races took place. But I've had my reasons, so all good. Just ignore me. But yeah, anyway, I'll stop messing about. So, sector 1, we have a 219 split, starting in, down to 4th, get up to 5th, correcting the car, and now we want to try, if we can, bring the, but yeah, we can't, we don't quite get the power down that we want to do.
I'm so stupid.
You can hear me there, I'm just getting really annoyed with myself. I was trying too hard to get on the power too early, and as you can see, we had 2 corrections on the steering on sort of the exit phases of Brooklands and Luffield, but can't do anything about that now. Still correcting the car at a high speed, actually, going through Magnus, Beckett's and Chapel. What's the split going to be? It is an 8-5-1 split. You can see I'm not very pleased with myself at this point in the lap, but nonetheless, heading into the Stowe. What the last time we used? It was actually quite a good Stowe there. We carried a lot of speed, using all the road in the exit. Getting to that apex nicely. A little bit of a correction on the steering once again. Yeah, having to correct the car quite a bit. It's not super smooth driving, but yeah, you can. I'm not happy with my laps at this point in the session, but we are still P1 in the session at this point, and we still have 2 sets of tyres for Q3, regardless of what happens, because we got through in the first run of Q1. So, all good. Now time for the last run of this session. Getting to the apex very, very nicely for turn 3, but that was my best Tokyo Drift impression, as we somehow gain delta out of there.
Oh, I'm going faster.
You can hear me there, actually, just not having a clue how we actually beat that delta. So yeah, interesting stuff. 178 sector 1. A bit wide through Brooklands. Can we hug the car to the inside a bit better on Luffield? We can. We've gained, I think, we've gained 1/10 on the delta now. Albeit we do definitely think we've got a bit more time on the table. So yeah, gaining quite a bit more through cops as well. So just carrying greater commitment and speed through there. Can we open up this left-hander better than the last time? I think we do. How's the exit gonna be? It's a little bit better. We gain 100th on our previous lap. Now with a 687 split. Looking like a more than comfortable lap to get us through at this point. Getting the car in relatively early for Stowe. Nice and controlled and smooth on the exit. Perfect usage of curb on the left hand side, but we have a bit of a correction on the steering. and we lose
Delicious
a couple of
last
hundreds
chicane. Oh.
on that. Yeah, on that last corner. But nonetheless, we are still top of the board for Q2, going into Q3. So we know. Yeah, I mean, so far through the quali, we have been struggling to put complete smooth laps together. We've been able to put the times there, but it has been quite scrappy, as you can see, just trying to get every bit of the lap together and trying not to lose the car, actually, as well. It was quite scrappy in many regards. But heading into Q3 now, where you actually have quite a bit of understeer by the time you get to Q3, because as the track grips up, going from Q1 to Q2 to Q3, it actually gets a bit understeery when the grip sort of adds more, because the rear end's gripping up more and more, so you actually get a bit more understeer as qualifying progresses. And again, correcting the steering like crazy, but this time managing to get a really nice tight line through Luffield, so we saved the distance and got ourselves maybe a bit more lap time back, albeit we're still fighting this car like crazy throughout this qualifying, dropping it to 7th mid-apex. Oh my goodness, that was really close to invalidating through that corner. So how's it going to be through Maggie's and Beckett's? Using lots of curb on the left, car wanting to wash out quite often. It does like to do that as we go through this section. It's a 6-3-7 split, which is okay for this point in the session, I think. A bit too late on the apex. We took quite a late entry into Stowe this time, using quite a bit of entry curb on that run, and we understeer into that chicane. It's not been a great final sector so far, so it's a bit of time on the table to be found. And we do a 156, which is provisional pole for the time being, and we have one more run to to put it all together. And yeah, we're on provisional pole, but for sure we think my thoughts at this point in the session was for sure that it would be not enough to get pole position. So we've got a bit of work to do to try and solidify pole position. So heading into turn 3, it's not quite getting to that apex, but how are we going to get the car in direction change? We do get to the apex, but how is the exit? We're a little bit more shallow on the line than we would have liked to have been, and we are pretty much neutral in the delta going into the end of sector 1. We have a 174 split, not the greatest through sector 1. The car was understeer, but we do not have any snaps on the exit through Brooklands this time. Double short shifting from 3rd, 4th to 5th. And we do gain on the exit of Luffield. So we've now gained a bit of time back, half a tenth up to the green. As we head to Cops now. Taking an earlier apex, but maybe killing the exit just a tiny bit more. Not by much, only a few thousand of a second. But how we're going to do the Magus and Beck is a bit late, bit wide on the right-hander. How's the exit going to be? We've not really gained massive amounts. As you can see, we're only in a 606 split, which is not that good going into the final sector. So we've got to send it now. And we absolutely nail the right-hander at Stowe, getting that perfect early apex. Now we've got this chicane to negotiate. We went wide at this corner that last time. We did not do it this time. Absolutely perfecting this last sector when it matters, hugging the line nice and tight, saving the distance, and we set a 050, which at the moment is provisional pole position. We absolutely nailed that last sector because we knew we had to send it. We had no other option but to send it. We have Alvaro Carrot on a lap, Marcel Kiefer on a lap, Jake Benham, Statulike as well. And yeah, we're just waiting for our rivals to cross the line now. And where they're going to go, Alvaro Carton, half a tenth away from his Kiefer, doesn't manage to improve, so it is pole position for this race for WR Silverstone, which, yeah, I was pretty pleased with given the... Yeah, we struggled just to put the whole lap completely together, but nonetheless, it was a very, very solid effort in qualifying. So, straight into the race now, and as you can see, we are on the hard tyres now. To begin the race, and if you look to the top left of your screen as the 5 red lights appear now, we do not get a good start, but there's a good reason for that, and it's because we are on the hard tyres and the 3 cars behind us are actually on the medium. So immediately we get outstarted by Alvaro Carton, and then immediately we overtaken by Nicholas Longue and I believe Jarno as well up the inside, and Jake Benham on the soft, who'll probably overtake everybody. Now, if you're wondering watching this video, whenever this video gets released, why I am so slow out these first couple of corners, sliding like I'm on ice, it's because this race was done at the point in the game where you started with 70 degrees carcass temperature and surface temperature on the tyres, which meant the hard compounds was pretty miserable in these opening laps. So, yeah, this was a very unique period of time when we were doing league races, because it meant
I was
that
sitting there
a
wondering why
lot
it was
of
such a bad
variable
start, and then I
strategies can
realised
be
everyone's
used.
on
However,
fucking mediums.
and the reason that a lot of people have run mediums is because the hard tires do not fire up very quickly at the start of races, so
It's getting temperature.
it was a bit of a mixed bag with strategies, but we decided to stick to our guns. We thought, you know what, we want to stick to the hard strategy. We believe we can get, you know, we can get the rewards later in the race on the medium compound, and yeah, I think the car was pretty well set up for the hard compound anyway. We felt very good on the hard tyres, so I was pretty happy to start the race on it and see how we ran as the race progressed, because we know this early phase of the race is going to be the hard part for us. So the main thing we need to do is try our very, very best to stick with these medium runners who will be quicker. So coming to the end of lap 1, we have went from pole position down to P5, but that's actually not too bad, given that we are on the slow tyre. But we were quite happy with this compound. So going into the race, we knew it was all to play for, so it was now just about settling into a rhythm. Skipping on to lap 3, we are still, thankfully, in DRS of the cars ahead, so this was critical. However, as you can see in P1, we have Jake Benham, who is on the soft compound tyre, who is actually pulling along the 3 cars in front of us at an even faster rate. So effectively this train was getting yeeted along at the pace of a soft compound runner, and everyone was deploying the batteries to stay in that, which made it very difficult for me to even stay with the guys ahead. Even though we did a pretty good job up to this point to even stay with the guys ahead. But as you can see, I'm pretty much bled dry on the battery. I do not want to spend practically any much more than I have at this moment in time. So if we lose DRS, so be it. Because at the end of the day, the cars ahead of me are going to come back towards me later in this stint, and hopefully we will get the advantage later in the race. But as you can now see, we have fell out of the DRS, which we sort of seen coming a little bit. We can't, I mean, we're already doing a pretty okay job to stay with the cars ahead as it is. So yeah, we've still net gained out of this situation. So yeah, on to lap 4. I've now just got to play the patience game and try and hope that later in the race they come back to us. So on to lap 8 now. What you're seeing now is we're 1.2 seconds behind, 1.1 seconds behind the car ahead of Jan Altmaier. But as you can now probably see, Jake Benham, who started in the soft compound tyres, has dropped off massively, because yeah, the softs are just a very fragile tyre. They fall off very quickly. So that big lead that he pulled at the beginning is already gone. Nicholas Longy's in the lead of this race. The good news for me though is this meant that Jake Benham started to back up the cars ahead and bring me straight back into this train. So on lap 8 of this race, on the hard compound tyre, this race is starting to come to us now. Now it's our time to really benefit from this strategy and try and yeah, play the race as best as possible, basically. So yeah, really starting to close this gap now. Nicholas Longy though, pretty much miles ahead in the lead. Like, he is gone at the moment in time. So I think the objective of this train at the moment was to pretty much close that gap back up again, because it is pretty big. And yeah, so Jake Benham diving into the pits. So this releases the cars ahead to sort of merge this pack back up again. Alvaro Caraton now will be 100% trying to close that gap to Nicholas Longy and make this train much more unified, much closer. So yeah, on to lap 9 now, and actually on to lap 13 now, and as you can see, the train has definitely closed up, and Alvaro took the lead as well, which I didn't actually show, which was my bad. But Jan Altmaier now diving into the pits on lap 13 for his set of hard tyres, going for the undercut on the cars ahead, or opting to try and get that warm-up phase out of the way, because getting onto a set of hard compound tyres at Silverstone is probably the equivalent of Banbury on ice. It is very slippy. So now we are released to start pushing on. This is the moment in the race that will benefit us most, because we get to close up on the guys that pit ahead of us and the fresh, you know, and that DRS, that free lap time that we're gaining in this train. And when all of these guys pit ahead of us on the medium, we are going to be gaining, because they're going to go into hard tyres, which will for the first lap, not be able to fire up the temperature, and we're going on to mediums, so our tyre warm-up's going to be much quicker. And as you can see now, we have closed up massively to the back of Nicholas Longay, who we can only assume is going to box at the end of this lap, and probably Alvaro as well, because they've done over half the race on this medium tyre. Their hards are going to be in a great situation, are going to be in a good place by the end of this race. So they've done a pretty solid job up to this point, but they need to worry about the undercut from Jarno Opmir as well at this point. But for us, what we're going to do is we're going to go one lap extra and use that clean air, that extra energy that we've just built up, and try and do the overcut on these guys. So as you can see, both cars ahead decide to dive into the pit lane. Now it's our time to shine. We've got to push now and try and go for an overcut on our hard tyres, which are in the sort of prime of their life, if you like, because the fuel's coming off and the hards are getting better and better, albeit the wear is going up. The times start to still stay very good. So diving onto lap 15 now, this is a critical lap for us. We are going to push as much as we can on this lap to try and perform the overcut on all three of the cars ahead of us. If you remember, Jarno Opmir pitting in lap 13, so we had him in 13, Longay and Caraton on 14, 14, and now we are on 15 with cautious. That was a very cautious pit entry actually. But yeah, we are into the pits now, and we are going to have a much quicker warm-up on these mediums, and if we have gained because of this overcut, we are in a great position. So into the pit lane now, getting that optimal turn in, putting on the set of mediums, thankfully not being held up by the Alfa Romeo of Tomic, and now we await to see where we rejoin. Alvaro Caraton at the head of that train, and you can see them on the minimap on the bottom left of your screen. He is coming round the final corner as we speak. We are just turning the pit limiter off now. They're crossing the start finish line, and we exit the pits, and they're nowhere to initially be seen. We are in the lead of this race with a 1.2 second gap, I believe, 1.3 second gap, sorry. And obviously, we are now struggling at this very initial phase because we don't have any tyre temp. And Alvaro immediately getting into the DRS, but the key for us is our mediums will fire up very, very quickly. So all we need to do is basically stay ahead until sort of maybe Maggots and Beckett's when the tyres are fired up, because the mediums fire up really, really well compared to the hard tyre, and our tyres are fresher as well. So we just need to survive this initial onslaught and then try and head the train from there. So with decent battery in reserve as well, we've got 40% battery, so we're in a decent reserve at this point in the race, and we have a 3/10 gap to Alvaro Caraton. We were wary of a potential attack at this point of the race, because we know, if Alvaro was ever going to attack, it was probably going to be on this very straight before my tyres, fired up. So you can see me deploying 5% or so battery in anticipation, but we have actually managed to retain the lead on the tyre fire up, and now our tyres are only going to heat up more. So what we're going to do now is start to pull away from these hard runners behind us, and as you can see, skipping onto lap 17, Alvaro is on 9/10 gap, and we're going to blast the battery now because we have been told by our engineer Anton that his battery is flashing. So we have broke the DRS just before the DRS detection, flying it through cops, and we have broken DRS, and the car behind has no ERS to deploy. So now, on lap 17 of this race, we are free to try and break away and try and run away with this race effectively. So in theory, it sounds all pretty well and good. Jarno Opmir up into P2 as well, passing Alvaro, who had ran out of energy. So we've got a 2.6 second gap at this point in the race, and it looks all well and good. However, we were about to come into some a pretty scary point in this race where I generally thought it was all going to come undone. So we're heading through Maggots and Beckett's now, dropping to 7th, dropping to 6th, and as you can see, we've just had a small snap of oversteer. Yeah, that gap to Jarno Opmir has dropped by 3/10.
Will be good for a while.
And if we're going to come into store right now, we're diving in nice and early, but as you can see, the rear end is completely gone. We were in pretty big trouble at this point. We have lost over 0.6 of a second in this lap. And I can tell you now,
no way I can hold on
our car was, very not well suited to this medium stint. We were very, very good on the hard tyres, but our car was not very well set up right now for this medium. We were in big, big trouble at this point in the race. The gap now has been sawn in half. We're at 1.3 seconds, and the big fear for me was that Jarno was going to get into my DRS and fly past me because our mediums were in big trouble. We were overheating the rear tyres massively.
I was wondering why the first stint was going so well.
And as you can hear me there, we were really good in the first stint on those hard tyres. The hard tyre stint was very strong, but right now we're on the ropes. So on to lap 23, the gap is 1.1 seconds. I had to drive so delicately, but also on the limit, to try and keep pushing, try my very best, with not much battery at my disposal as well, to keep Jarno that critical 1/10 or so out of my DRS. Otherwise, he'll win the race. My tyres are struggling. We're managing just, and I mean just, to keep that energy. Sorry, not that energy, as we got told by our engineer Anton that we're on pretty much the same energy as Jarno. We are literally just out with that DRS of now Marcel Kiefer, actually, who's on the fresher mediums of anybody. So it was extremely sketchy, these laps. We were having to push so hard, but trying not to overheat these rear tyres. We were on the limit, and I genuinely mean on the limit of, you know, pushing these rears just that tiny bit too much. I had to manage my rear slip quite a lot, and we were just able at this stage of the race through these from lap 20 onwards to somehow just about hold it after recovering from those oversteer snaps where we seared the surface and just the temperature of the tyre, to recover the temps and just manage it on the bubble of overheating all the way to the end of this race. So in theory our strategy was very, very strong, but we got this second stint very wrong in terms of, you know, preparing for this race, because we had a lot of overheating on this medium. However, on lap 26 we have managed to hold off, you know, this very, very close onslaught from the cars behind on, you know, the different strategies. And yeah, rounding now the Stowe corner for the last time, coming into the last chicane. We didn't have it 100% our way, we had to work for it, but we've drove another good performance, and it's going to be our fourth win of the season.
Yes, yes, yes!
Great
Those
drive.
tyres were so history, man. I know why, and I'll tell you after the race, after the stream. Those tyres were not good. I was in trouble very early in that stint. I had to manage those tyres so much. I'll tell you why after.
Okay.
So there we have it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this race. And yeah, if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe down below, which is, you know, that typical YouTuber saying that we apparently say these things. I don't know. I'm not a very professional YouTuber. But anyway, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, hope to catch you guys in the next video. So love you all. Take care. And ciao.
We nailed that, bro. Well done. Well done.